So this was told to me by an old family friend, Nikki, numerous times as a kid growing up, as one of those life advice stories to keep in mind through the years. And to her credit, I have never forgotten it. Whenever anything associated with hitchhiking comes up, it always springs to mind, and probably always will. Makes me a little bit ill whenever I think about it, actually. So Nikki, who grew up at the same time as my dad, around the early 80s, was a young woman in her mid-20s. She's one of those real kind-hearted souls, always willing to help another out in a time of need, you know? And I can't imagine her being anything other than that when she was younger, so I totally see her doing this too. So driving into this town, about a 2-hour or so drive from town, she saw a man walking down the side of the road. As she neared, he turned around and, in typical hitchhiker manner, stuck out the old arm and thumb. Nikki, bless her heart, pulled over and asked him if he needed any help. She told me that he was really polite, if not a bit shy, when he asked for a lift into the city. Nikki gave a smile and popped open the passenger door for the guy, who tossed his bag into the back seat and buckled up for the ride ahead. They talked pleasantly for most of the trip about friends, the news, etc. She felt that they were getting on really well, and even bought him dinner at the pit stop a little over halfway there. She says he seemed really flustered and awkward when she paid, but one of the things that they talked about was money and how he was pretty dang strapped for cash, which was why he was hitchhiking in the first place. But he eventually relented and they went on their way. As soon as they got into the city, he thanked her profusely for the ride and the food and asked to be dropped off once they hit downtown. Before getting out, he asked for Nikki's phone number so he could contact her someday and catch up. Thrilled at the prospect of knowing how her new friend was faring, Nikki wrote it down for him and soon drove off with the warm feeling of a good deed done. Now, I'm sorry if you were expecting something creepy to have happened by now, but I think this is what freaked me out so much as a kid. How nice everything seemed to have worked out. Nikki would get this crease in her forehead and a funny look in her eye when she would tell me the next part. A week later, she got a phone call from her driving buddy. He didn't let her get a word in edgewise after hello and told her that she should thank God that she was raised so nice, because when he first got in her car, he was planning on raping and murdering her once they got to that pit stop. That he was going to steal that car and dump her body in a ditch further down the road and go on his merry way. But after she talked to him so kindly and treated him to dinner with a smile on her face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't think that he could live with himself after doing that to such a nice lady. And to please, Nikki, please, never ever pick up another hitchhiker. Then he hung up the phone. Nikki never got a call from him again. When she tried redialing, the number she got was a payphone. And so, Mr. Hitchhiker, I know I'm never going to meet you because I'm going to listen to that advice you gave your driving buddy and never ever pick up a hitchhiker. You sure are pretty. I was 18 at the time, driving to get some food on my lunch break. I saw a man probably in his 50s trying to hitch a ride. I was pretty hesitant to stop, so I drove by. I felt guilty though, remembering my mom's always stopping to help people stranded on the road, homeless, out of gas, etc. So I turned around and offered a ride. He introduced himself, whose name I cannot remember, and thanked me profusely. He apparently had groceries and told me he didn't want his meat to spoil in the hot and weather. He asked to be dropped off at the post office, which was not too far away. As I drove off, he stared at me for a good minute, and the sirens went off in my head. Awkward, creepy, and unsettling. After a bit, he blurted out, "You sure are pretty," and asked me for a number. I said no, I have a boyfriend, and I am not interested in the least bit. He He kept asking and insisting my relationship status was irrelevant. I asked him to stop, and he became aggressive. I veered into the closest turn-in, slammed on my brakes, and yelled, "Is it too much to ask for a little good karma every now and then? Get out of my car, you cad." "Yes," I said, "cad." He gave me a blank look, then just got out. Much to my surprise, he ended up forgetting his groceries, and what scared me the most is the fact that there was no meat, just some eggplants and nonsense. Now that I'm older and hopefully smarter, I will think about who I pick up a little more. That, and it also helps having my 80-pound dog in town. He picked up a murderer. Not my story, but my dad's. He was traveling through Arizona on his way to Mexico. He looked to the side of the road and saw a man hitchhiking. My dad pulled over and asked him where the guy is going, to which the man said the next town over. My dad, being a very trusting man, and this being the 70s or 80s, decided he would give him a ride. While they are driving, they start talking. My father asked him for his name. His name was Derp. My dad, quite shocked, looked at him and replied, "Holy crap, that's my name." They had a few small conversations, and at the next town, my dad let him out and continued to Mexico. He eventually reached the border. He pulled up, and the border official asked to see his license. He took a good long look at the license. The official then took off his big aviator sunglasses and told him to pull over to the side. My dad got out of the car, and they put him in a room while they searched his car. He was sitting in the room for a good few hours, admiring the entire wall of confiscated tequila. When the officer walked back in and apologized for the wait, my dad asked what the reason was, and the officer replied, "There's a warrant out for the arrest of Derp." Once again, dazed, my dad asked, "What for?" The officer replied, "Murder." My dad damn near crapped his pants.